All right, guys. Now let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Sweet. Okay, well, happy Monday, everyone. Great to see a rally in the markets. Hope you guys are enjoying the YouTube live stream now, where we've had a little issue with the Telegram one, so hopefully everyone now can hear the sound loud and clear. We're going to start doing YouTube for the foreseeable future so that everyone can hear, and it's going to be easier all around. So looking at the past 24-hour liquidations, it is great to see that the shorts are finally ahead of the long, and it's great to see at least that we have, longs outperforming for the first time in a while. And so one thing I want to point out is, we have 193 million liquidations for shorts versus 56 million for longs. So hopefully we see this continue. But finally, like I said, good to see shorts are getting liquidated. We're seeing a little short squeeze, and hopefully this will continue. But we'll go over a lot of news items, a lot of metrics I'm looking at, where I'm looking at for price, for support and resistance, as well as what my outlook is for the next few weeks. So looking at the Fear and Greed Index, right now it's at 45. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the Fear and Greed Index, like Warren Buffett says, you buy when others are fearful and you sell when they're greedy. And so right now, the Fear and Greed Index is at 45 neutral. What that means is really people aren't overly greedy, overly fearful. They're kind of starting to get more confident, because we were in this fear, extreme fear area for the past few months. And now, as we have this rally, relief rally, dead cat bounce, whatever you want to call it, people are starting to get more confident in the markets. And so they're starting to invest. They're starting to, start to be in and just look to buy on any type of pullback, because most people guaranteed were sidelined on this recent move higher. And I'll cover why we've been, climbing in price and what I think is going to happen over the next few weeks. But nonetheless, you shouldn't really worry about the Fear and Greed Index until you get towards this extreme greed area. Because once that happens, it means, everyone who got sidelined is now trying to invest. Everyone's getting greedy, overconfident in the market. That's when you start to see pullbacks. Whenever you have these extreme greed, or even staying in the greed area for multiple weeks on end, that's when you should start getting worried and say, okay, let me start taking some profit off the table week by week. And then at that point, it'll reset near that fear, and then we'll kind of balance between and then start the rally like we did recently. And so just good to keep an eye on the Fear and Greed Index. And you can see anytime we've been in extreme greed and these low levels, Bitcoin bottomed and we had a rally in price, similar to what's happening right now. So something good to keep an eye on. Now, let's talk about news items. So some big news items is what I am watching. And let me know, guys, if this sounds good or if there's any echoing, and I will adjust accordingly. But Senator Cynthia Lummis, she's been a big proponent of the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. and really pushing that. And finally, once Trump finally signed the executive order for the SBR, a big thing now she is proposing is having the US government selling its gold to buy Bitcoin. And so this is something that's great to see, because not only is the government, holding the Bitcoin that it has from forfeitures and seized assets, but it also mentioned whenever Trump signed that executive order is they're going to buy more Bitcoin if it supports a budget neutral strategy, meaning they're saving money for one area and using that money to buy Bitcoin in another. And so as long as they can do that, then the option to buying Bitcoin does come into play. And so I do think that if they do end up selling gold for Bitcoin, that would be good, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think that they're going to look for other ways to save money and then buy Bitcoin, or other assets to sell and then buy Bitcoin. And so because Bitcoin's not going away, they have an SBR, they're continuing to pass pro-crypto legislation. And so I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. And we're just, waiting until we have that full-on adoption from other countries as well, not just the United States. Next, we have Polymarket users predicting an 87% chance of a spot Solana ETF approval in 2025. So this is something that's good, and really this is something that's been expected, because the Solana ETF has been talked about at least for the past 6 months. I know that the CME recently launched Solana futures, and so that's something as well. But an eventual ETF, in my opinion, is a no-brainer this year for getting approval. I do think that's just a matter of time. And we're seeing that reflected in price. I mean, Solana's price nearly reached $145 today. And we'll cover some TA of where I think it's going from here. But nonetheless, I do think that Solana, one, is going to continue to gain traction. The network can obviously handle the traffic. We saw that with the Trump and Melania launches. But yeah, it's only a matter of time now before that catches up to the price, and you have more institutions buying it, especially as this ETF does get approved. So now just watching that, especially with other ETFs, in my opinion, it's going to be like Coinbase when they were listing only a few coins and they started listing more coins week by week. And so I think that we're seeing the same thing with ETFs. Once the Solana ETF gets approved, then you're going to have things like the XRP, Litecoin, SUI. I mean, all these other ETFs that have been applied for, those starting to get approved as well. And then it probably won't have the same effect as far as pumping price as the first few ETFs did vis-a-vis Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. But nonetheless, still going to have some effect as far as institutions being able to invest. So something good to see with that. Next, on Cointelegraph, we have Trump's executive director of digital assets, Bo Hines, saying we want as much Bitcoin as we can get. Now, this is very important because this guy, again, he's a director of digital assets. He's only 27, but he has a good grasp of the cryptocurrency market. He's been in for a while. He has the experience. And now we're starting to see all of this bullishness we've seen in the government that we didn't have during the Biden administration, right? We saw a lot of bearishness towards crypto. We saw a lot of regulation, a lot of uncertainty. And now with Trump in office and this regulation starting to have more clarity, and people like Brian Armstrong, even the Ripple CEO, starting to really have a say in needing these really clear laws and regulations for more adoption for crypto. I think we're seeing that be a positive, a net positive, in my opinion. And we'll see that come into play over the next few months as, again, more adoption comes, regulation is clearer, and really we start to see more adoption across institutions and other companies for Bitcoin and other altcoins. And so just the fact that he's saying that we want as much Bitcoin as we can get, it shows you that they're not just looking at getting Bitcoin from seized assets, but they're looking at actually buying some via those budget neutral strategies we talked about earlier. And so that's something that I think is very imperative, and something that I think is going to be something that's going to help propel us further. But again, I'll talk about some catalysts that I'm looking at for next month and following months of why I think that we can still pump a lot higher than where we're at now. Next, let's go ahead and look at some news from Cointelegraph. So BitMEX co-founder Arthur Hayes, which BitMEX was the biggest leveraged trading exchange back in 2017, 2018, he predicts Bitcoin will hit 110,000 before retesting 76,500, claiming the Fed is switching from QT to QE, which quantitative tightening to quantitative easing for treasuries, and dismisses tariff concerns, citing, quote, transitory inflation. And so I want to break down what Arthur Hayes is saying. Now, Arthur Hayes is extremely smart, macro-wise. The guy knows macro, knows the global macro environment in and out. Now, he's not the best with picking altcoins, but he's extremely smart in macroeconomics. And so while I will say that, his prediction with Bitcoin may, again, 50-50, honestly, but I do think he has a better grasp on the global economy versus most people. So it's possible that we reach 110K beforehand. And I'll cite a couple reasons why. I mean, one of the big reasons is the CME gap is at 84.8K. And once that gets filled, which I do think it will, then it just opens up the door for us to continue higher. And there is a trend line on Bitcoin that I'll cover when I talk about the charts at, 110 to 115K, where I do think that could mark the top. And then we bleed into the bear market, which could be 76.5K next year. But yeah, that's just a level that I do think that, again, we will reach, but may not be in the near future because there's so many bids at 80 to 81K and so many people watching those levels. And so that unless there's some black swan event that could take us to 76.5, it's going to take a lot, in my opinion, with QT, ending basically over the next few months, the reduction starting April 1st, the war, the ceasefire. There's talks between Russia and the U.S. that's happening in Saudi Arabia right now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's actually starting to come to fruition that is a bullish catalyst. And so something I want to point out, as well as a few other items. But yeah, this is something just to keep in mind. I don't think he's just, winging it. I think he has some good reasons behind this, especially with Jerome Powell citing transitory inflation in the last FOMC meeting, which, like I said, cites that they're very flexible and will adjust based on the overall economy, which is good. Now, another thing is Fidelity is filing for a U.S. Treasury fund on-chain on Ethereum with the SEC, expecting the product to go live May 30th. So this just shows more adoption across institutions, and it shows that Fidelity is really leading the way. They're one of the big institutions that's actually been buying a lot of Bitcoin over the past few months, in addition to BlackRock. And so Fidelity really is leading the way of adoption here. And I do think once you get more people kind of getting access to cryptocurrency via like the boomers and older people that may not be as well versed, then you're really going to see that money flow into the market and that quote unquote old money coming in. And that's when we'll start to see the price really rise and that adoption really take hold. So that's something I'm watching closely. Then last but not least is the U.S. shifting their tariff strategy. So really this kind of bleeds into the macroeconomic news, which the White House stated that they're scaling back their April 2nd tariff plan and focusing on targeted reciprocal levies. And so originally we had Trump, he was going to start his implementation for his second round of tariffs on April 2nd, which was really the larger round of tariffs. But they announced that they're actually going to scale that back and focus on targeted reciprocal levies, which is extremely bullish because people were expecting the tariffs to go into effect and maybe there's going to be some retaliatory thing from other countries onto the U.S., then more pressure onto the economy, and then just more bearishness overall. And the fact that they're actually rolling it back shows that tariffs were just a negotiating plan, right? They're just a negotiating tactic. And that's all they've been. In 2018, when Trump implemented tariffs, it was just to negotiate, whether it was to get countries to come to the table to help with borders, i.e. with Canada and Mexico, whether it was to help with drug smuggling. I mean, whatever it may be, right? It's just a negotiating tactic. And now, once we've had these tariffs actually start to scale back, then we can start to see the economy start to flourish again as other countries roll back their tariffs. And really you have the whole rising tide lifts all boats scenario. And at that point, everything such as the stock market, crypto, etc., starts rising accordingly. And so this is going to be great to see and something that I'm looking forward to as well, and why I believe we're starting to see, a rise ahead of that April 2nd date. Next, we're going to talk about the FOMC meeting. So the FOMC meeting was held March 19th, and it says the Fed holds the Fed funds rate steady, slows U.S. Treasury runoff QT from $25 billion to $5 billion per month. QT slowing, which is quantitative tightening, equals positive for risk on assets, which is cryptocurrencies. This is likely the catalyst to trigger a sharp rally. And this was March 19th. So this shows, again, the rally's happening right now. People are front-running the news. That's a big thing that I want to mention is crypto is news-based. It's based off of catalysts. It's based off of hype. The biggest hype factor in the beginning of the year was a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Once that finally happened, we saw that blow off top, and then people were looking for the next big catalyst. And so right now, the next big catalyst macro-wise is the ending of quantitative tightening, and that the reduction is starting April 1st, and then eventually people are expecting it to end in the summer, which if QT ends in the summer, that opens the door for more stimulus, i.e. quantitative easing. And that's where you have the economy pumping, and that was Trump's plan all along, right? I mentioned the tariffs were a negotiating tactic. And so basically, he slapping on the tariffs, and the economy is basically dropping, and he was trying to force the Fed's hand in lowering interest rates, and then from there, really pumping everything all together at that point. And so it's been his plan all along. It's what he did in 2018. And so, like I said, it's only a matter of time now. He's being a lot more flexible, a lot more adaptive this time around versus 2018, whether it's because he has a lot more people that he can trust in the government, or whether, in my opinion, it's because he has a lot more experience now with other countries, relationships with other country leaders. And so he's able to really understand and flex a lot quicker than he did in 2018, 2019. So that's what we're seeing now. And I do believe, like Jerome Powell said, the Fed chairman, that the inflation interest rates, they're transitory. And so now we're starting to see that effect come into play with Trump's shift on his tariffs for April 2nd, as well as quantitative tightening slowing, which is everyone is waiting for as the next catalyst starting April 1st. Now we talked about the Russia-Ukraine war. So just today, news came out that negotiators from the US and Russia are launching ceasefire talks in Saudi Arabia. So this shows that Putin is open to these negotiations and these ceasefire talks, because we already know that Zelensky, president of Ukraine, is open to them. And he's already agreed that, okay, here are the terms, and then they brought them to Russia, and now Russia, they're having talks in Saudi Arabia, seeing if they can finalize that ceasefire. Now, I do think that it is going to happen within the next few weeks. Again, it's a slow process. We want to see it happen right away, obviously, but this is just another catalyst for the market. And so whether it's people projecting or forecasting that the ceasefire is going to happen soon, that's why we're seeing a rally in the market. I think it's more towards the tariff news where they're rolling those back, and then the reduction of QT. But nonetheless, this is just another catalyst to send us higher. So eventually when this does happen, it'll be a nice rally in the market. Next, we have other countries such as the UAE pledging $1.4 trillion into the United States after the Trump meeting over the next 10 years. So $1.4 trillion over the next 10 years in the U.S. economy. That's another scenario where you have rising tide lifts all boats. If the economy gets that much investment, I mean, again, then you have a booming economy that helps other countries, and really that just helps the overall market rise with stocks and cryptocurrencies. And so any big investment like that from other countries into the United States only helps strengthen the United States and really helps to strengthen the economy. In essence, the United States is part of the global economy, which again helps other countries to flourish as well. So I think it's a win-win for everyone, and it's great to see at least Trump getting more of these deals, getting these investments back to the United States, and really bringing everything back to where once the United States start doing good, that's when you have that bleeding over to other countries and to the financial markets. Then speaking of other countries, you had publicly traded Hong Kong Asia Holdings bought 10 Bitcoin worth $858,000 for its balance sheet. Now, I know this isn't such a big amount as after we just talked about what UAE invested, but nonetheless, this is good to see that they're adopting Bitcoin more than they have been in the past. Hong Kong is actually one of the most pro-crypto places in China, and I believe it's one of those places where they're really going to lead the way, and which could open the door for the Chinese government to really start adopting Bitcoin and implementing it as part of an investment strategy, because their economy has been hurting, as most people know. And so they're looking for ways to help facilitate a recovery and really help to instill confidence in their citizens. And I think that with them adopting cryptocurrency, it just opens the door for more countries to do so and follow suit. Whereas the US is leading the way, and China eventually has to jump on board or they'll get left behind. Now let's look over the charts for the macro environments. So looking at the S&P, you have a nice bounce from this 5,600 support level, and now we can see it's at 5,750. So kind of in the middle of this range here. The RSI is bouncing nicely on the weekly time frame. It's at 46, but the S&P is in a range here, so I really wouldn't look to jump in just yet. 5870 is the next big resistance level. So really, I just wait either for a retest of support at 5640 or resistance at 5870. So keep an eye on that. Next, we have gold. So gold is a hedge against inflation, a hedge against uncertainty. Right now, we can see a potential bearish divergence on the RSI, a lower high on the RSI while price makes a higher high. And I do think we're close to seeing gold roll over, and then you have more investment into risk-on assets, i.e. like tech stocks in the S&P or cryptocurrency. And so it's only a matter of time before we see this roll over and we start to see people get out of gold as that uncertainty declines, and we start seeing more bullishness in the market, the macroeconomy, and more investments into those risk-on assets. So I'd look at the very least, if you're looking to buy gold, 2850, probably the big support level. And then from there, 2750 is the next major support level for that. Next, looking at crude oil. So Right now, crude oil is staying in this range between 66 to 80. Again, the reason I look at crude oil is because if we have an increase in oil cost, it's an increase in transportation cost, a higher chance of inflation, interest rate rises. So in my opinion, as long as it remains in this range, really nothing to worry about. So it's just something I keep an eye on. Really the bigger indicator is the DXY, so the strength of the dollar. So let's go ahead and expand this chart. Now you can see on the weekly, we're actually coming close to this resistance at 104. Now, if we close the weekly above this, which we still have 6 days, then that may have me cause for concern, because at that point, the DXY tends to be inversely correlated to the S&P in crypto. So if the DXY is rising, usually the S&P is declining, and vice versa. So we want to see the DXY continue to bleed. Again, it's not foolproof. It doesn't mean it's always inversely correlated. We've seen that in the past, over the past few months. It's been a little, 50-50. But nonetheless, overall, we do see an inverse correlation. And so hopefully we see the weekly close below this 104 level, and then we can see the market continue to rise higher. The RSI, it's not oversold yet. So like I said, not really cause for concern, but we'll just need to see where this weekly candle closes and if it really maintains above this 104 level, or if it rejects, which would be extremely bullish for stocks and crypto. We'll see everything send a lot higher. Next, let's go ahead and look at the overall markets. So let's go and refresh the page. So a lot of good price action today. Bitcoin's up 4% to 88.3K. Ethereum's up 4.8% to $2,086. The top gainers, we have Render up 16%, Barachain 16, WorldCoin 15, Sonic 14, AVAX 10. So something I want to point out is I actually have a few AI coins, Render and WorldCoin, that are up today. Even we have Artificial Superintelligence up 9%, near the top gainer. So could we potentially have another AI run? It's very possible. I do think even with Fartcoin here up 20% trending, and AI rig complex, right? ARC is up 60%. So this shows that AI coins may be coming back again. And anyone who knows narratives knows AI is one of the most bullish narratives around. AI coins pump the hardest, but again, they also dump the hardest. But if you can catch them on the pump, I would say they're even better than meme coins. Like if you can catch AI coins, it's definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity for those type of runs. So maybe we start to see AI coins outperform. Maybe there's some big announcements for AI. Maybe there's some big catalyst upcoming. But yeah, nonetheless, it's good to see that AI coins are starting to gain some love again. Now looking at the TVL. So where is money going on chain? Well, a lot of it's going on Ethereum, 2.6% over the day. Solana is up 3.2%. And it looks like those are the main chains that are seeing attention. And so Solana is gaining attention again. And from my perspective, I'm seeing a lot of quote unquote good meme coins pump. Like we have the morning routine meme coin. We have Saratoga, right? Like these memes, really these call them TikTok memes, but they're on X and they're actually gaining a lot of hype and a lot of traction. And so I like those a lot better than these presidential memes that are very, extraction heavy. And they're run by these, cabals. I do think that it's very healthy to have some of these organic memes start to flourish again and start to get more people interested in the market. And so that's something I like to see. And again, it's good to see at least money flowing back on chain. So good for overall market sentiment and everyone's perception of where we're at. Now, speaking of perception, so I talked about the Fear and Greed Index on CoinGlass, which is this website here, coinglass.com. But CoinMarketCap also has its own Fear and Greed Index. And I want to mention this because there's different factors that they measure, right? So you have CoinGlass measuring volatility, measuring social media, dominance, trends. They take all of these measurements into account when they get this number. Now, CoinMarketCap gets these various numbers as well. But again, they have different measurements. So if you look here, how is this index calculated? Price momentum, volatility, derivatives market, market composition, CMC proprietary data, which is different than CoinGlass, social trend keyword searches, and user engagement metrics. And so you can see whenever CoinMarketCap got to extreme fear on their Fear and Greed Index, that marked the bottom, March 10th. So make sure you guys are also watching CoinMarketCap. I think it's, they both have their advantages and disadvantages, but I would look at both, especially if you're day trading in this market, because once you get to these oversold levels, very, very bullish as far as, buy levels from a risk reward perspective. And so keep an eye on CoinMarketCap's Fear and Greed Index. It could definitely tell you a lot. Now let's look at seasonality. So CoinGlass is really good for data assessments, and especially with seasonality here. So Bitcoin monthly returns. And so while they say history doesn't always repeat, it often rhymes. And so right now we're seeing March close green, 4.3%. But I want to tie this back to 2020 when we had a green January, red February and March, and then a green April and May. I still think it's possible that Bitcoin closes red in March and then opening up the door for a green April, May. Now, again, it doesn't have to follow this, but signs are pointing towards that if we're looking at quantitative tightening reduction starting April 1st, the tariffs, rolling back April 2nd, and a lot of these bullish catalysts, especially with potentially a ceasefire in Russia-Ukraine happening over the next few weeks. And so that does open the door for a nice rally in April and May, but it'll be interesting to see where we close for Q1, because Q1 is historically a bullish quarter, similar to Q4. But that's just something I'm watching closely. And if we do end up closing green or we close red, in which that would enhance my argument for a fractal similar to 2020. Now let's go over some ETF flows. So I like to watch ETF flows. I use Farside Investors, good website, farside.co.uk. But it shows the institutions and where they're putting their money. And so Bitcoin, you can see it's had inflows for the past 6 days in a row. Very bullish. It shows institutions are very bullish on the asset, and they'd rather invest in this versus Ethereum, which we'll cover in a minute. But BlackRock has been a big proponent of Bitcoin ETFs, especially with Fidelity. I mentioned Fidelity is leading the way in a lot of these inflows. So something good to see. There's some of the main investors, but nonetheless, it's good to see that institutions are coming back to Bitcoin. Now, talked about Ethereum. It's had 13 days of straight outflows. Extremely bearish. What I'm going to be looking for is for inflows to return back to Ethereum, but also 9-figure inflows. Once Ethereum has 9-figure inflows, 100 mil plus, that would really show a shift in sentiment and potentially a top in Bitcoin dominance and a shift over to Ethereum and altcoin season starting. And so I think it's possible we see that over the next few weeks, especially if the market rallies ahead of those bullish catalysts that I was talking about earlier. I think it's very possible, but I'm still waiting for this number to turn positive. Could we see positive inflows today? Just looking at Ethereum's price action, very possible, right? These inflows are lagging. So we'll see these probably in another 6 to 7 hours. We may start seeing these numbers come online. So I'll be watching that and basically sharing my thoughts accordingly. Now let's go ahead and look at the price. So it's a little TA for Bitcoin and altcoins. Now, I posted my Bitcoin analysis in the Telegram. So for anyone who didn't see that, go ahead and check that out. Basically what I said is we closed the daily chart above the 200 EMA, which was bullish, okay? So you look at the daily here, and you can see that Bitcoin's price closed at 86,080, and then the 200 EMA was at 85,700, right? So we closed just above it, which was very, very bullish. And now what we're seeing is another candle close above. So what I'd like to see is, again, another candle close above, a retest of support, and then continuing higher. Now, I did post a price, basically price coming below the 200 EMA, and I want to tell you why. It's because there is a CME gap. So what I mean by that is there is a CME gap at 84.8K. Basically, that means that Bitcoin opens up higher than when it previously closed. And usually what happens is price ends up, quote unquote, filling the gap. So you can see there's a little gap between 84.8K and 85.1K. Now, in the past, we've seen that whenever we had a gap, for example, March 7th, Bitcoin closed or had the wick down to 84.8K, and then it opened to 84.2K. So I had this gap here that it filled 5 days later. Now, we saw that it can take a longer time, such as when we had the gap November of 2024, where it gapped from 78K, gapped up to 80.6K. And we didn't fill that gap until, we almost filled it back February 28th, but then we ended up finally filling it March 11th, March 10th. So That shows you eventually the gap gets filled. If it doesn't get filled within the first week, then it's usually a few months until it gets filled. So what that means is we have to watch the price over the next few days this week, because we could very well have Bitcoin fill the gap and wick down to 84.8K. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to close below. It just wicks down, fills the gap, and then continues higher. And so in my opinion, that scenario is very possible. We wick lower. People are expecting this 200 EMA to hold. They think we're going a lot lower. They're ready for their bids at 80 to 81K, and we just reverse back to the upside. That's very possible. But I want to point out the RSI is very bullish right now, right? We had the RSI reject multiple times since February at this 50 level. Now we're looking to cross above it and close above it. The only thing I want to mention is the stock RSI is overbought, right? We did cross over the signal line again, indicating more bullish momentum. But like we've seen in the past, whenever the stock RSI gets overbought, that's when we have a pullback, right? It happened January 6th. It happened January 19th. It happened December 17th. Anytime stock RSI gets overbought, usually we have a pullback, especially because we do have the 50-day EMA at this 89K level. So this is something I'm watching closely. And again, I wouldn't be buying here. I would, at the very least, wait for a retest of 86K. But as far as that CME gap is concerned, I could definitely see us wicking down to 84.8K before continuing higher. So those are the levels I'm watching. And then as far as Ethereum is concerned, let's go ahead and look at that. And make sure you guys are trading on BloFin if you aren't. It's one of the best non-KYC exchanges. So definitely very easy to use. But as far as Ethereum is concerned, it's looking bullish, right? I mentioned ETF flows were still low, waiting to see what these numbers are today, but it is making higher lows. And this could signal a shift in the trend. Now, something I also want to mention, two things, is the RSI is coming up to this 50 level, which has acted as resistance in the past. Okay, so it's like we're seeing Ethereum basically have Bitcoin's price action from a few days prior. And so I could see a rejection off Ethereum around this 2100 level, which I did mention as resistance in the market update. But something I would watch for is if we can't close above 2100 on the daily, I look for a rejection, especially since the stock RSI is overbought. And then from there, I look for buying it at least at 1950. That would be my next buy level for Ethereum before continuing higher. And so very possible we see that. But again, if Ethereum closes above 2100 on the daily and in about, call it 4.5 hours or so, then we could see price continue a lot higher. And so that's what I like to see, is at least a close above, retest of support, and then a move higher into this big resistance of around 2300, which coincides with the 50-day EMA on the daily. So again, some resistance coming up, but the daily close will tell us a lot about where Ethereum is going, as well as those ETF flows and where sentiment is at for the next few days. Next, let's go over some other altcoins. Actually, let's go over some other charts that most people don't look at. So we already talked about the CME gap. People are going to be talking about this week at 84.8K. So look for that to be a target. But let's talk about Bitcoin dominance. So I mentioned if Ethereum starts having inflows, specifically 9 figures, we can start seeing it outperform and Bitcoin dominance topping. So what do I mean by that? Well, in order for Bitcoin dominance, put it this way, when Bitcoin dominance drops, Ethereum outperforms. Ethereum and altcoins outperform, and we have alt season, okay? I know this is a lot of numbers and text here, but what I want to show here is Bitcoin dominance is the measurement of Bitcoin's market cap relative to the overall market cap of cryptocurrencies. So anytime we have dominance topping, we have Ethereum outperforming. So here, whenever Bitcoin reached its resistance, Ethereum rose 136% versus Bitcoin over the next year. We had it reach its resistance again for a double top. Then we had alt season start in 2020. Ethereum rose 77% versus Bitcoin over the next month. Whenever Bitcoin broke below this support, then Ethereum rose 150% versus Bitcoin over the next 8 months. This was that 2021 rally, okay? So anytime you have Bitcoin dominance reaching these major resistance levels or falling below these major support levels, you have alt season starting. Bitcoin dominance hasn't done that yet. It's been consistently rising. Now, whether that could be because there's such a dilution of capital among various altcoins, we have Pump.Fund making alts, we have, all these different vectors for altcoin creation that is making it hard for altcoins to really gain dominance over Bitcoin. That could be an argument, but I do still think that we will have Bitcoin dominance drop eventually, and a couple reasons for that. One, the stock RSI is overbought. Anytime we've seen the stock RSI overbought on the weekly, we have a huge drop in dominance, okay? Now, it could be a chop, drop, whatever you want to say, but during this time, we have alts rally versus Bitcoin. So that's an option. Two, we have a bearish divergence with Bitcoin dominance versus the RSI. So RSI is making a lower high. Dominance is making a higher high. So eventually we could see it roll over. Now, the only thing I want to mention is it's really not at major resistance yet. Like, I would like to see it be a lot closer to this 63% level, whereas previous support turned resistance here. That's where I'd be more confident that, okay, we could start to see it rolling over. Right now, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's in the middle of no man's land, but, it's a little resistance, you could say, but it's not as strong as I would like. So it's going to be interesting to see if we do drop here, maybe this could be the new resistance, right? So just a level I'm watching, but nonetheless, I do think that we are in for some type of relief for altcoins versus Bitcoin. So something I'm watching closely there. Now let's go ahead and look at Solana. So Solana has been doing great. I mentioned it just reached 145 earlier on, especially as people are expecting an ETF approval in the near future. Now, if you're looking at buying Solana, at the very least, I would wait for 135. 135 has been big resistance, but now potentially turns support. On the daily, you do have the RSI continuing higher, looking potentially to cross above this 50 level. But again, this has been resistance in the past. So we've seen that, again, it's been rejected off 50 previously. It's been support, now turned resistance. Is it going to be resistance again? Going to be watching that closely. And the stock RSI is also overbought on the daily, indicating we may have a short-term pullback. And so these are the things you want to be focused on, not just price action, but also what the technicals are saying. And so at the very least, like I said, I'd like to see a close above, consolidate, retest resistance as support before continuing higher. So these are the levels that I would like to see. And yeah, like I said, it's all about risk reward at the end of the day and having the statistical advantage. So statistically, we've seen price bounce off support. So that's what you want to be betting on. You don't want to be buying when it's in the middle of this range here, especially when indicators are overbought. Now let's go ahead and look at XRP. So XRP has been pretty good. It's been making higher lows. And stock RSI on the daily is actually crossing to the upside, showing more potential for further bullish momentum. Then you also have the RSI still continuing higher. Now, something I want to mention, and I'll go ahead and get to questions as well, guys. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments, and I'll go over them after this stream, which, again, I should be done covering everything within the next 5 minutes or so. But XRP's been making higher lows, as well as you had rumors that they had a partnership with Swift, and Swift is starting to implement them. Now, that was on Watch Your Guru's account. It was on his X account, but also his Facebook account and Telegram account, which he said his account was hacked. But to be hacked across all three platforms is very unlikely. Similar to when Trump announced his coin on Solana, he posted it on X and on True Social. So I think that news was legitimate. It was just leaked early, and we could potentially see that play out this week. Sometime it could be released. And so I do think that, there's a famous quote, show me the chart and I'll tell you the news. And so we're seeing higher lows being made. So maybe people know something. At the very least, it's good of a shift in the trend, especially as we're breaking above these 100-day and 50-day EMAs. So very, very bullish on this front. If you're looking at short XRP, 260 is a resistance level I'd be watching, as well as 277. If you're looking to long XRP, 225, great support. And then obviously you have around this $2 level, which also coincides with the 200-day EMA. So 190 to 200, or 190 to $2 is great support. So I'll be watching this if you are interested in longing. But yeah, right now it's looking good tentatively. But would I buy here? I'd maybe DCA, but really I'd start to look at, if you can buy it near 230, 225, that'd be more advantageous via risk reward perspective. And finally here, let's go and look at AVAX. So AVAX is doing really well. It's closed, or at least it's broken above its $20 resistance. So $20 has been a big inflection point. It was acting as support, then it acted as resistance. Now we're looking to break above it and then potentially retest and act as support again before a continuing move higher. Now, the only thing I want to say is be cognizant of the stock RSI. It's overbought on the daily. Okay, this is bearish. Anytime we've seen AVAX have the stock RSI overbought, we have a drop, right? So just keep an eye on that. Yes, it is bullish. It's breaking above resistance. Yes, it could mean a change in the trend. Yes, it's making higher lows, but still you can't ignore the technicals. So we could still have some chop. Stock RSI could reset before continuing higher. So that's what I would look for here, especially as we have resistance around $22 to $23 coinciding with the 50-day EMA. So that's something I'm watching as well. But yeah, just keep an eye on that. I would at least wait for a pullback before investing in AVAX. And last but not least, let's look at upcoming events. So Token 2049 in Dubai is happening April 30th to May 1st. So Pavel is looking to be a speaker. I believe he may be there. I know he lives in Dubai now. He actually got the authority or got the approval to leave France. So thankfully that's finished. But that could see some hype with the Ton blockchain. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, I'll be here. Hopefully see you guys there. It's going to be a great event. A lot of good side events as well. A lot of good networking. It's going to be a good time. Next, let's look at some upcoming data this week. So we have, a lot of economic data such as manufacturing PMI today, housing price index Tuesday. Q4 GDP is Thursday. This will tell us a lot as well. A lot of quarterly reports are going to happen today since it is towards the end of March, the end of Q1. We also have jobless claims and then core PCI inflation. So it's going to tell us what's happening with the market and if the market's improving or not, and then also that likelihood of further interest rate cuts and seeing what's going to happen with quantitative tightening as well. So big numbers this week. So interested to see what happens with that. Also the FOMC numbers. So we had the FOMC meeting February 19th. Already mentioned what happened with that. Now the next FOMC meeting is going to be May 7th. I strongly believe this could be where we see a ending of quantitative tightening or at the very least an interest rate cut. So I'm going to be watching that closely to see what happens with those numbers. But with that, I'll go ahead and take some questions. So guys, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and then I'll answer them over the next 10 to 15 minutes here. So let's go ahead and scroll into the top here. Again, so glad you guys can hear this video versus the Telegram live streams. Deathwink said June, July is going to be the bottom. Very possible. Let's see. All right. Yerlin says, is there some reason to watch only Bitcoin news? Does it affect other coins? So Yerlin, as far as Bitcoin news, so I do think, and let me go ahead and pop out the chat here so you guys can actually see it on my screen as well. So make this easier for you guys. But yeah, as far as to watch only Bitcoin news versus other news, I do think that Bitcoin news, so Bitcoin really affects the overall market, the overall crypto market, I should say, because if Bitcoin's bullish, usually the market's bullish. If Bitcoin's bearish, the market's bearish. Now, overall, Bitcoin and crypto in general is based on monetary policy. And so whatever's happening in the macroeconomic environment is going to trickle down to Bitcoin and then trickle down to other altcoins. And so I think it's good to watch Bitcoin because, again, a rising tide lifts all boats. And whenever there's uncertainty in the market, then you have, basically risk on assets being the first thing to get sold off into. And then you have Bitcoin getting sold off, etc. So yeah, that's why I think it's good to watch Bitcoin news, because then you can help predict what happens with the altcoins and other assets. Yep, Maris said the same thing. Okay, someone asked, am I Luke? No, I am not Luke. CryptoData is my alias, and so, but no, I'm not Luke. Hopefully I'll meet some of you guys in Token 2049 in Dubai. But yeah, I have hung out with Luke in the past. I was at Bali with him at the Mastermind, and there's a couple other places as well, the Singapore and Dubai, Token 2049. So yeah, we spent a lot of time together. Great guy, similar personalities. A lot of people actually confuse us via, the voice, which is pretty funny. But yeah, always have a good time with him. Let's see. Derek says, going to get back into the market when ETH goes around 1,500. So Derek, that's possible, right? ETH has some support near 1950, 1,700, and I believe around 1,550. And so it could be a bottom, especially if there's some type of black swan. We could see it around there. I know a lot of people are looking for lower. And so, yeah, just one of those things that just be cognizant of. But like I said, a lot of indicators, specifically stock RSI, is overbought. So potentially at least a short-term pullback. Champ says, is Bitcoin going to 100K again? Yeah, I think Bitcoin's going to break all-time highs again, whether it's in the next few months or by the end of this year in Q4, when usually we have the top based off the global liquidity cycle. Yeah, it's, I mean, I would, if I had to give it a percentage of it going over 100K again, I would say probably 90%. So is it possible we topped? Yes, but I don't think we have, just based off of macroeconomic factors, global liquidity cycle, where we're at with interest rates, tariffs, and upcoming catalyst, especially with quantitative tightening. Like, I do think that we still have a lot of catalysts ahead of us. And then Woodan says, bro, what is the tab grouping extension that you're using? Yeah, so it's on Google Chrome. And so all you got to do with Google Chrome is just, you just right click on one of your tabs and you can do create new group. And then at that point, you can actually, you know, add to or new tab on the right, or just add tab to the group. And then you can just create another tab. And then from there, you can actually have a lot of tabs with that. So it's just something really easy to use and something I like to use as far as, you know, just sorting and categorizing all my stuff. So it makes it real easy. Let's see. So Gus says, Luke, where do you learn your technical analysis? So yeah, not Luke, but my technical analysis. So a couple places. So you can, if you type in support resistance for beginners, then there's a video by a guy called Raynard Tao. He's very, very good in technical analysis, and he goes over the basics. Now, a little sneak peek for you guys is, you know, we're going to start giving you more, you could say, free guides for technical analysis and showing you guys how to chart. And it's something that's going to be, you know, hopefully helpful for you guys, and that you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but teach a man a fish, you feed him for life. And so one of those things where we really want to give you guys the tools you can use to really be profitable in the market. So that's coming up. Akash says, what about Doge? Yeah, let's go ahead and look at Doge. So let's see. Let me pull up the chart real quick. 1 second, guys. All right, let's go ahead and pull up the Doge charts. All right, so let's just go on a clear chart here. So just off the top, looking at a few big support resistance levels. All right, so just looking at it from a top-down perspective, so we did have a nice bounce off the previous resistance, turned support at 14.3 cents. Now, the next big resistance for Doge I'd be looking at is 22 cents. So looking at the RSI here on the weekly, we can see it's starting to curve to the upside, very bullish, especially as it gets closer to crossing the signal line on the weekly. If we go to the daily charts, I mean, the RSI is looking very, very good, continuing higher. Now, if you want to add the stock RSI as well, just go to indicators, and you can go to stochastic RSI, add that, and look at that. On the weekly, stochastic RSI is oversold. So yeah, I think it's possible we see a rally in Doge soon. I mean, it is, you can see most altcoins, the RSI, stock RSI is overbought, but with Doge, it's exactly the opposite. So we could start to see some type of rally in the near future for Doge. Now, it's in the middle of a range between 14 to 22 cents. So just be careful if you're trying to bid here. But nonetheless, if you can get in your 14 cents again, a good bid. Or, you know, if you want to wait until the stock RSI resets on the daily, when it gets maybe to this 50 level or lower, and then buying from there, that could also be an option. So just multiple techniques you can use. But yeah, I mean, Doge is looking good. All right, let's see some more questions. Mohammed says, are you open to chart requests? I am, but just be advised that probably got about 10 more minutes. But since this is the first time I'm doing YouTube with you guys, then I'll, you know, stay a little later. So looking at EVA, been picking up heat on X a lot. So EVA, let's see, I'll go ahead and check that out. I don't think that has, yeah, it doesn't have anything on here. Here, I'll pull it up on Dex Screener. Let's see. I'm assuming it's the EVA on Ethereum. So just looking at the chart, I mean, it looks really good. Like, yeah, it's a very, very bullish chart. And now volume is 214K, so still extremely low. Low liquidity there, but you know, liquidity 641K. Market cap's 8 million, so not horrible. You look at the RSI, it is getting overbought. That would be the red flag I'll look out for. So at the very least, I'd wait until it gets to 7.7 cents, a retest, and then potentially a bounce there. So just because last time the RSI was overbought, you had to bleed down to previous resistance turn support before continuing higher. Similar here, bleed, resistance turn support, and then continuing higher. So yeah, that's something I'll be watching with EVA. Let's see. Ram Power says, what are your thoughts on abstract chain? So I'm still bullish on it. There's one coin called Noot, N-O-O-T. It's really good. People are thinking it's the next Toshi. That's gaining traction. As far as the chain overall, I mean, it's not bad. It just needs more adoption. Like with anything, you know, Base is a big competitor to it. And if there's the same amount of fees on Base versus abstract, why people use abstract. But there is still some reason. I mean, there's also Candle TV. I believe that I don't know if that's on abstract, but I know abstract is rewarding streamers for streaming on their platform. And so, yeah, hopefully we see it gain attention. You know, I love Luca Nets, awesome guy. One of the CEOs of Pudgy Penguins. And yeah, he's a great guy all around. So I like to see the chain succeed. So hopefully we see more adoption on that in the near future. Gus says, also, how do you usually break down your Twitter news? Good question. So usually what I'll do is, I follow a lot of reputable accounts and I'll see what they're talking about, as well as the explore section. I'll see what's on the right side and see what big news items are taking place. And then also I will look at Cointelegraph. I'll look at a few of my Discord Telegram groups, see what people are talking about. And then also just big macro events, right? So like I mentioned about the Russia-Ukraine war, like I mentioned about quantitative tightening, like I'll look at big events like the FOMC meeting, stuff like that. That's always going to be prevalent and never going to change. That's like the staple. And then whatever everyone else is talking about via like the crypto news, those big events, then, government related or just things related to like, big, like we saw halving events or like big unlocks, whatever you want to call it. So those type of things as well, or big investments from big institutions, like just the major stuff that you would expect. That's kind of where I focus it. But yeah, I usually just look at the big news outlets like Cointelegraph, Watcher Guru, Unusual Whales, even CoinMarketCap's news, etc. And I'll usually find a lot of good stuff from there. Kaushik says, what do you think of a so long, more to catch the pump? It's risky, Kaushik. I would say wait until 136. If you miss it, you miss it. But I wouldn't be chasing the middle of a range. Starless says, what's your IG, bro? Just search the CryptoData, and you'll see me on IG there. I haven't posted in a while. I need to start posting there again. Gangster says, what about the Pi network? Man, Pi's been bleeding a lot, unfortunately. It gained a lot of hype early on, but it's been bleeding since, so I'd just be cautious betting on it. Let's see. Eshwar says, will the recent Solana memes pump like Ponky? Because I bought the dip. That's an interesting question. We can look at Ponky real quick. And I'll have to go here in about 5 minutes, but we'll go ahead and chart what we can. So yeah, Ponky's been bleeding for a while. You can see the daily chart here. It's at basically resistance. So previous support turn resistance. If it can break above this 11 cent level, potentially bullish there. We can look at the RSI. I mean, RSI tentatively looks good, but same thing, like a few other tokens, is, it's starting to get to this 50 level where it's rejected at in the past. And so that combined with its resistance, not looking the best. But I mean, if it can break through and retest it as support, then that could be very bullish. And so that's what I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting for a daily close, be waiting to see what happens with the RSI here. And if we can retest this previous resistance as support, That's where I'd be buying. But I'm not touching Ponky just for clarity purposes. Johnny the Monkey says, as a beginner, what should I look for when trading? So as a beginner, one, you should be learning technical analysis, like standard support resistance levels, because they are self-fulfilling prophecies. People call them magic lines, hocus pocus, whatever you want to call it. But the truth of the matter is a lot of algorithms are looking at support resistance. A lot of professional top traders are looking at support and resistance. And so it's only right that if everyone's looking at it, well, it's bound to be significant, right? And that's why you see a lot of volume, a lot of liquidity concentrated around these big levels where there's multiple touches. So at the very least, learn technical analysis, the basics of support and resistance. After that, you need to follow reputable accounts. You need to be in reputable groups like Gem Hunters. We provide a lot of good data for you guys, especially Gem Hunters Premium. If you want to join that, the link is pinned in the Telegram. So just go to that, sign up. But yeah, find a lot of reputable groups. That'd be my biggest thing. And a lot of reputable YouTube accounts. So whether you want to ask me or some of the Gem Hunters or Luke, hey, what are some good accounts? We can tell you guys. But yeah, just be aware because there's a lot of scammers, a lot of influencers who are just there to take your money because they can't succeed themselves at trading. And so just be cognizant of that. Don't fall for that. By the time you see a big influencer shilling a coin, usually it's too late unless you can get that coin on a deep discount, right? You don't want to FOMO in whenever a coin is pumping to new all-time highs. You want to wait for that retest of support at the very least, especially if the indicators also coincide with good risk reward, such as being oversold while it's at support. Like confluence is also key, right? So that's what I would say. Learn technical analysis, follow reputable accounts, and then just research. At the end of the day, you just got to put in the time. And, you know, nothing works unless you do, right? So put in the time, put in the research, look for upcoming catalysts because that drives the market. Hype drives the market. Buy the rumor, sell the news. That's just all what crypto is based off of. Also monetary policy, but short term, it's, you know, these various hype cycles that we have and events that people look forward to for a reason they're buying, you know, ahead of them. Let's see. Yerlin says, me and my partner created meme coin to the moon from $100. I made 9,000. My pie is 1.5%. Yerlin, that's awesome. Hey, whatever way you can make money in this market, as long as you're not scamming people, more power to you. MPHO says, thoughts on XRP. I'm still bullish on it. I believe that news that quote unquote, you know, was leaked from Watch Your Guru being hacked. I think that was legitimate. It's only a matter of time before we see that come to fruition because it was across 3 accounts that he was quote unquote hacked. And that's very hard to do. So yeah, that's what I'll be looking at. Let's see. Derek says, are we getting taught how to trade on BloFin? So yeah, so people who want to learn how to trade on BloFin, there's a tutorial video that I made. If you go to the pin message in the Telegram that shows you how to trade. It's a 20-minute video about how to trade on BloFin. Shows you, talk about leverage, isolated versus cross margin, and all of that stuff, all the specifics. Now, as far as technical analysis, that's something we're going to start slowly implementing. Kincaid has been posting a lot of good guides and, you know, stuff that you should know about technical analysis. So make sure you're looking at those updates. But we'll start posting more videos and more guides in the near future to where you guys can actually learn about how to chart, and which also bleeds over to learning how to trade more on BloFin. Ondo, quick analysis. Yeah, I actually had a chart on Ondo. Let me see. Let me go ahead and bring that up real quick. Yeah, so Ondo actually looks fairly good. If you look at the daily chart here, there was some resistance around this 90-cent level. It looks to be breaking above it. I would say just, you know, have caution as we get towards this overbought level in the stock RSI. We could still have some more room to the upside around 95 cents, previous support turn resistance. But if you're looking to buy it, I wouldn't buy here. I would either A, wait for it to close above and retest 90 cents as support, or I'd wait for a pullback to 83 cents and then buy right there. One of those two scenarios. But yeah, I mean, Ondo tentatively does look good. You could say, you know, if you want to say technically it's making higher lows and the trend is changing. So yeah, doesn't look too bad, but I would at least wait until one of these things happen. Let's see. Any look into grass? Chris was asking. Yeah, let's go ahead and bring up grass. Grass was a token that was pumping a lot in the past. Now it's, it looks okay. I mean, it doesn't look the best. If you want to call it some support here between $1.15 to $1.25. Let's see. Yeah. So you can see here, it's getting close towards resistance around 160. Now, the RSI looks great, crossing above the signal line, but the stock RSI potentially could be getting overbought soon. Still a ways to go before that happens. And so, yeah, at the very least, I could expect it to get to 160, maybe come back down, retest this level here, you know, almost where we're at now, this 150 before continuing higher. But yeah, it's just a little bit too much in the middle of this range for me to want to buy it right now. But the indicators do look good from the stock RSI and the RSI. So if you're in it, I would take some profit at 160, and then your next take profits, there's probably some around this 186 level. So maybe 160, 186. I'm just looking at this previous resistance here. And then the big resistance is going to be 218. Let's see. All right, MPHO, yep, went over XRP already. Andre says, what are your chart settings? So I actually chart a lot on BloFin here. And for, but yeah, BloFin, TradingView, whatever you want to call both of them. But yeah, as far as on this chart, I have the 50-day EMA, which is the green line, the 100-day EMA, which is the yellow line, and then I'll go to the 4 hours so you can see it. Then the pink line / purple is the 200-day EMA. So these have shown 50, 100, and 200 have been shown to be, you know, important resistance / support levels in the past. So I like to have them. And then I have the RSI, Relative Strength Index, and then Stochastic RSI here. And just default settings for the RSI and stock RSI. Yerlin says how to get premium. And so as far as premium for the Gym Hunters group, I believe it is, you need to look at the cost, but I believe it's around 1 to 1.5 ETH. So go ahead and go to the link. It is pinned in the Telegram group, the free Telegram group. And once you go to Gym Hunters, sign up, and then you can be prompted for payment there. And it's yearly access. MPHO says, what's your X account? It's CryptoData. So it's at the CryptoData. So I post a lot of updates, a lot of chart updates and stuff as well. So if you guys have any questions about that, I posted about Total 3, how it was getting very bullish and it was breaking resistance, and that was March 17th. And now we can see, altcoins are a lot higher. So this is basically the altcoin index. So yeah. If you guys want to follow there, that's where I post a lot. Let's see. KCF likes the quote, nothing works unless you do. Hey, appreciate that. It's the truth, right? You got to put in that work in order to see the results. The amount of input you put in dictates the amount of output you get. Let's see. MPHO says, does P&L matter? So P&L, if you're talking about profit and loss, yeah, I mean, how much profits you make definitely matters. Maybe you're talking about risk reward or like your profit ratio, how much time you're profitable versus not, like your win ratio. Yes and no. So as far as if, you're 50% profitable, I mean, that could still be good. If you're 40% profitable, that could still be good. If your wins are big and your losses are small, meaning if you're 40% profitable, but your win rate is like a 3-to-1, right? So basically meaning that for every $1 you risk, you're winning $3. Well, over time, even 40% profitable is going to be a big win, especially if your losses are very small. So that's where the win ratio doesn't matter as much, but obviously you want to see it, above 50% if you can. Thoughts on Altcoin? We'll go over that real quick. I'll go and chart it on BloFin here so you guys can see how I do that. Okay, so looking at the daily chart here. Okay, so we're coming up against a little resistance here on Filecoin. The RSI is crossing to the upside, which is good, but similar to a few other altcoins. And so if we can break above this 50 level and close above it, it could be good, but similar to a few other alts, stock RSI is starting to get overbought. And so it would not surprise me to see a little chop rejection off of this, potentially a retest of $3 on Filecoin before continuing higher, or a break above, chop, retest of now 320 resistance turn support before continuing higher. So long story short, I wouldn't be buying Filecoin here. I'd wait for a break above, retest that support before buying, or a retest of this $3 level as support. So that'd be my thing there. Asma says, how do I identify meme coin 10x or 100x? So as far as identifying a meme coin 10x or 100x, that's hard to say because memes are dictated by various different factors, such as community, which is the first and foremost, the most important. You know, Meow, the founder of Jupiter, he always talks about a strong community as being, you know, the key, you know, the capstone for any large coin to really flourish. So you have that. You have tokenomics, right? How many snipers are in it? What team is running it? Is it organic growth? Is it viral? Is it lasting? Is it evergreen, right? Is the meme something that can last more than just a week or a few days? Is it something that can last over a few months like Ponky did? Like a few other big memes, right? Giga, SPX 6900, etc. So that's something that you got to identify. And then just how long has the meme been out? Has it been out for, you know, a year? Whereas it's already had its rally. Now it's really, you know, what's the market cap of it? Is it 100K? Is it 1 mil? Has it been retested, previous resistance, you know, as support? Are influencers behind it? Like there's so many metrics to really measure for a 10x or 100x play. So it's hard to say there's one specific factor, but I would say if it has a strong community, then it could be a higher chance. How viral the meme is and what backers are behind it could also dictate how far it can go. And so that would be my biggest thing. And then, you know, has the price been organic over X amount of days / weeks, or is it just one big pump right away? Like organic charts are the best because those usually have more holders and they hold their support levels more so than not. Tony said Jupiter. Let's go ahead and check that out. And I'll just take a few more quick fire questions and then we will end the stream. So I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. All right, so Jupiter does look tentatively good. 57 cents. Its biggest resistance was this 55-cent level. I was waiting for it to break that. But you can see that it has been making higher lows, which you want to see, like I said. But it's crazy how a lot of these charts look the exact same. Like this looks similar to Filecoin, where the stock RSI is overbought, RSI is approaching the 50 level. You know, the only difference is it's breaking above its resistance much more than where Filecoin's at. Filecoin is right at resistance. So Jupiter is tentatively looking good from an SR perspective. Now, if you want to have like a midterm resistance line here, 63 cents will be my next target for Jupiter. And so at the very least, if it has a pullback consolidation, you could buy at 55 cents. Risk that. And then from there, 50 cents would probably be the next big level I would look to buy at. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there was a lot of, you know, FUD regarding, you know, people selling the airdrop or employees getting paid too much or what have you. But it looks like at least some of that FUD is being dispelled as we're trying to make these higher lows. So yeah, I'll wait for at least a pullback, but Jupiter tentatively does look good. Gangster Paradise says, Ethereum buy DCA level, please. Yeah, 1950, 1700, 1550. Rainage, what do you think of the Tesla stock? Tesla is an interesting one. I usually don't cover too many stocks, but for the sake of this stream, since you asked, I'll go over Tesla. So if we look at the weekly time frame, let's go ahead and chart Tesla real quick. Won't belabor this too much. Yeah. Tesla is an interesting one. I am bullish on it. Long-term, bullish on Tesla. I do think that the weekly looks good. From an indicator perspective, being oversold on the stock RSI and then the RSI curving to the upside. I know a lot of shorts are getting liquidated right now. There was a big thing where people were trying to short Tesla over the past few days, and now they're just getting wrecked, which is great to see. And so the next big resistance is going to coincide with this 50-day EMA on the weekly at 289. So I could see some short-term resistance here, just because if you look in the past, the 50-week EMA has been treated as support, right? It bounced off of it at 212. So now potentially could act as resistance. So just something I'm watching right now. But yeah, I am bullish Tesla long-term. Julian says, check the news. Something came up. All right. Let's go ahead and switch back to Bitcoin. Let's see. Let's see if we got any big news. So from Watch Your Guru, just in, President Trump says he may give a lot of countries breaks on tariffs. Ooh, that's good. I like that. I like that a lot. So yeah, this is very bullish. So this actually tells me that, again, it could cause more of a rally, right? So this is something that's good. Give that a repost. Yeah, that's really good news, because again, once we have more of these, you know, easing on tariffs, quantitative tightening starting reducing, I mean, that just opens the doors for rallies across the board. So yeah, good news. Appreciate that. All right. Let's see. Asma says, you launch meme coin? No, I haven't launched a meme coin. And I am not Luke. I may sound similar, but I am not Luke. Let's see. Asma, what do you think of the daddy meme coin? Nah, don't like it. Too much, it's too much extraction going on with that. Sports Cricket says, INJ long-term picture in your opinion? INJ's okay, but again, it's not something where I'm thinking that it's gonna, you know, go a lot higher. I mean, we can chart it real quick. So just from a TA perspective, support resistance wise, I mean, it is at long-term support. I will give it that. Like resistance back in August or April of 2023, now acting as support. That's bullish. Stock RSI is also oversold on the weekly, with the RSI starting to curve to the upside ever so slightly. Yeah, INJ looks good here, not even gonna lie. As far as resistance wise, I would look at around $13, coincides with the 200 weekly EMA as well, and then 14 after that. But yeah, if you can get it near $9.50 to $10, that's a good buy level for INJ. Karamov says, what are your thoughts on GPB USD? GPB, little currency stuff. Let's see. GPB's an interesting one. So it's getting close to resistance. Doesn't look as good because of stock RSI overbought. RSI still has some room to go, but I would just be cognizant of the stock RSI and potentially having a little pullback here. At the very least, I would look for a pullback to the 125 level. Again, the silver lining is you do have a lot of EMAs, right? As far as the 200, 150 EMA right here. So these could act as support as they acted as resistance in the past. And so if you want to start buying near about 127, and maybe a bounce here. But yeah, I mean, just be cognizant. Stock RSI is overbought. And, but we could see over a few days, it gets reset, and then we could see a further rally. So yeah, but I wouldn't be buying here ahead of resistance at 130. I would just kind of wait until at least a pullback to 127. Harsh says, I can't figure out in which time frame I should see the data properly. So yeah, as far as SR lines, support resistance, daily or weekly. If you want to be more intraday, then I would say 4 hour or daily. And if you're really trying to scalp, then you're looking at 15-minute or 1 hour at the very most. Diago says, any thoughts on virtual? Yeah, we'll go ahead and pull it up real quick. Virtual on base, really no opinion on it. It was the leading AI coin on base for a while, but I mean, now it's, let me see. Let me actually pull up make sure I pull up the right charts. Here, let me pull up the chart on TradingView. Then I'll take a few more questions, and then we will end the stream. So, as far as virtual is concerned, I mean, similar to a few other coins, it is starting to make higher lows. So, you know, if you look at here, starting to make higher low. I know on the RSI, again, it's starting to rise, but similar to a lot of other altcoins, stock RSI is getting overbought. So just keep that in mind. We could have a rejection fairly soon. And so at the very least, maybe 65 cents, you could start to DCA down. But yeah, I would just be cognizant the stock RSI could roll over and we could start seeing a little bleeding. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. Wudon says, in your opinion, it is a good idea to short Bitcoin to 86K? Excuse me. No, I would not short Bitcoin right now. And a few reasons why is, I mean, yes, we did have the 50 EMA. The stock RSI is overbought. If you want to short it, then at the very least, depending how aggressive you want to be, if you want your stop to be at 90K or just above like 90.5K, may not be a bad area. Yeah, it's not bad to short, but I would just say just be careful. You're almost better off shorting at these major resistance points. But yeah, silver lining, it is at the 50-day EMA. So if you potentially want a DCA short, basically place some bets here and then a little around 90K. May not be a bad risk reward wise. And then yeah, stops around 86K or take profit around 86K. That could be a play. So not the worst, but yeah, if it breaks above this 50 EMA, I imagine we'll see some bullish momentum after that, especially if it can close above it. But not bad for a scalp play if you want to play it as such. Let's see. Just take the last few questions. Yes, I am not Luke, and you will see that. Anyone who's in token 2049 in Dubai, myself and Luke will most likely be there. So you'll see the difference there. Let's see. Doggy says, what does shorting and longing mean? Yeah, so shorting means you're betting on the price going down, so you make money when the price goes down. Longing means you make money when the price goes up. And so like on BloFin, like I'm talking about here, which everyone should already be signed up for, the best non-KYC leverage trading exchange, very easy to long or short. As you can see here, either market orders or limit orders. Again, there's a tutorial pinned in the Telegram pinned comments at the very top, and I have a BloFin tutorial video to talk about that. Peter says, do you ever use the 15-minute and the 1-minute charts, or are these too volatile? No, not really, Peter. Like, unless I'm scalping, I mean, and this is, using high leverage, very close stops, and just scalping on those time frames, I don't. I'm usually more of a high time frame trader, like daily or weekly. Maybe the 4-hour, but usually I trade on the daily time frame and swing trade, so over a few days / week. And I find that's a little bit safer wise, because the 1 minute, like the 15-minute, 1-minute charts, those SR lines aren't as reliable, because again, there's only, that much time in each candle, versus the daily candles, 1 day, 24 hours is within one candle. Poison said, FOG analysis. Yeah, we'll check that out real quick. Ooh. Yeah, FOG, I mean, potentially could be bottomed. I'm not going to bet on it here, but RSI does look somewhat good, so maybe it's bottomed here. Not bad risk reward with stops at, 3.2 cents. So still a ways away. But yeah, that would be if you're really trying to just, play this as a risk trade. CEO Ramon says, what exact technical indicators are you using on TradingView? So I talked about those earlier, but I have the pink is the 200-day EMA, the 50-day EMA, and the 100-day EMA. So you just search for EMA on indicators. And again, you can find this on BloFin. So if you click on this little expansion box here, you can expand your chart. And then you can click on the indicators button here. And then you can search EMA, moving average exponential. You can add it to your favorites. click it, you'll add the chart, and then down here, click on settings. And then for style, let's just say so you can see it easier, let's just call it, let's see. Yeah, let's just call it red. We'll have another green one, okay? Let's just do blue. All right, and then we can do inputs. For example, if you want this to be the 50-day EMA, you'll change it to that. Or if you want it to be, let's say, a 300-day EMA for whatever reason, then it would be that. And you could see how price reacts and then backtest accordingly based off of that data, right? Oh, would you look at that? 300-day EMA acted as support, you know, September 7th of 2024, right? So just stuff like that. You'll find EMAs that are very significant. Historically, though, it's been the 200-day EMA, 50-day EMA, and here is the 60-day, but 100-day as well is pretty good. Okay, and Asma says, you support meme coin? No, I don't really support many memes. I just kind of trade them based off the attention and hype. Derek, hey, no problem, man. Wudan says, isn't Hyperliquid a better exchange to trade on? No, so BloFin's good because it's non-KYC. And they have a lot better features, in my opinion. It's a lot easier to conceptualize. It's a lot similar to like Bybit and other top leverage trading exchanges. And in my opinion, it's just overall just more user friendly. So, again, BloFin is just, in my opinion, a lot easier. I mean, but again, Hyperliquid is an option. But like I said, I mean, BloFin is one of the top non-KYC exchanges, and they should stay non-KYC for a while. The CEO, they put a lot of their money into regulation and compliance. So in my opinion, at least all of 2025, they should stay non-KYC. So, but yeah, I mean, there's other options as well, but you know, BloFin is the main one I use. And Mara says, thank you for the amazing live stream. Much appreciated and good luck in trading, everyone. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I know this was a long live stream, about an hour and a half, went a little over time, but wanted to make sure to answer all the questions you guys had. And again, if you got any more questions, go and leave them in the comments below this live stream. I'll answer them accordingly. These live streams will be every week. So I'll continue to provide you guys with daily market updates and Bitcoin analysis so we can ride this rally together and make sure we are betting at those major support levels and when risk is on our side. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Have a good day.